Good evening, everyone. Welcome to a lecture in GAMPRG 2. So today, we'll be talking about data-driven code with Unreal. So itong lecture na to, it will kind of help you in your milestone 2, which is yung kung ano milestone dapat yung due this week, I believe. So whatever we discuss here will kind of help you. Okay. Now, so what is data-driven code? So, di ba usually sa programming, it is simply a process of taking an input data and process it to produce an output. What does that mean? Like, imagine nga, di ba may mga attack tayo, attack damage, may armor. If we take those input, we process it, the output niya is how much damage would you do or how far the stuff went, yung mga ganun. So, we process those data. So, data-driven code is about exposing configurable input data as much as possible to control the behavior of the object. So, data is usually separated from behavior. So, what do you mean exposing configurable input data? Ito yung mga configurable input. Ito yung mga data that we use that change natin. Like, example, yung may mga yung health values or yung like sa endless router, meron tayong values for the spawn chance. Diba? Yung spawn chance natin for the obstacles, spawn chance natin for the pickup. Ayun, those are configurable input data. So with data-driven code, we try to make it exposed para ma-configure natin base sa kung anong gusto ng designers natin. Now, ways to data-driven code. So these are three ways. We could either use data members, we could use struct, and in Unreal, we could use data asset. Now, si data members, basically, these are just like the variables you have in Unreal. Ito yung change natin, yung ginagawa natin na like pickup spawn chance, mga yun. Ito mga yun. So, classes can declare data members. Data members can be a simple integer or a more complex struct class. And this data is glued to the behavior. So we do this if the data is exclusive to the class. So in case this data is not needed naman sa other classes, okay lang. You can use data members. There is nothing wrong with it. It's like the default way talaga. Pero, nakaglue nga siya. Nakaglue siya sa class na yun. In case you need like data and like parang kikopya-kopya mo sa ibang classes, hindi pwede. Parang you would have to manually change them for each of those actors in your map. Okay? Ang structs naman, it's a simple way to separate data from behavior. So defines a new data type can be declared as data members of a class. This cannot be stored as an asset, must be configured through the class that has this variable. So ang struct, it's like not really a class of itself, but it holds different kinds of data na which this set of data, you could use it for other classes in case kailangan mo. Like, what if you need certain like what if you need yung ayun. So what if you need the unit stats, right? Ang unit stat, sure, pwede mo ilagay mismo sa unit or you can have yourself a separate struct for it. So kapag ginawa mong struct, you could use this for any other kinds of classes na hindi unit in case naman you need. Okay? So this is just a list of data that could be used for different classes. Pero this cannot be stored as an asset. Meaning it's not something that you can simply just instantiate and all. It is just you can only configure it sa class mismo. And to create a struct sa C++, It's almost like creating struct in normal C++. However, you need to add some additional lines like ang macro natin na use struct, yung mga macro natin na generated body. Kailangan natin yun. Doing this, you should be able to access this struct in Unreal. Okay? So important, itong use struct, tsaka generated bodies. Everything else, it's just like yung usual yung header file. Okay? So structs can be declared along with any class header file or in a separate file. So kung tinatamad kayo, you can just have it on a script sa class. Na class. Like yung sa atin, si enemy, I could create a use struct there. Kayo bahala. Pwede naman separate. And here, don't use pointers with structs because they're meant to be used as read-only. These are just data lang that we want to get. It's not something that we want to change yung loob niya. Okay? It's just something na we just want to get this data. We can use it for we can use it to process yung mga functions natin or the mga methods natin in the class. All right? So this only read only. And finally, we have data assets. Ang data assets, it stores data that can be used by runtime objects. So it's not a physical object sa world. It is only meant for reading data. And this yung data asset, it can stored as an asset that can be referenced anywhere. What does that mean? So sa Unreal, you can create a data asset. Parang siyang like actor, like gagawa ka ng blueprint. Parang ganun. Gagawa ka ng data asset and you can use that data asset. You can share it to different classes. Unlike si struct, it's not something you can create. It is something within the class. Kailangan may configure doon mismo sa class. Ang data asset siya. So with this, it have easier collaboration. Designers can simply encode data. It's also easier to balance and test. Data is easily swappable. And we use this over struct if you plan to pass around data via the editor. So really useful. This is really useful for our designers. Why? They don't have to look for our blueprints. Like, let's say, ang ginawa natin, ang yung unit stats, let's say, ginawa natin sa separate units niyon. We have like goblin, we have the like player, or we have a monster, ay, mga yun. Kung nalagay natin yung date ng stats doon mismo on those units, they would have to find it. They would have to look for it in your project file. Hanapin nila yun. Then, they would change it there. Right? But what if we can have all those data in just one folder? With that, we could use si data asset. Kapag nasa isang folder, they will have an easier time. Not only that, tayo rin. Why? They could create a data asset for future use. They don't have to wait for us to create the actor and then they can change or test yung mga data nila. No, we can just simply get the data asset yung ginawa nila, and we can use that as the stats. And they can simply just change it on their own. Okay? So yun yung kagandahan ng data asset. So when do we use mga data assets? We could use it sa mga config files, like what if you want certain values for yung mga config nyo? You could create a data asset for it. You could create a database for collection of objects. Ayun, like item database, meaning andun lahat yung mga items, yung mga stats nila, cost, weight. You can use the data asset. Enemy stats, yan like yung sinabi ko, di ba? You can just have it in just one folder. Lahat ng stats na andun. We could also have monster item drop table. Ito, isipin nyo may ari ka of ID and yung drop rate. Monster ID uh, or yung ID tsaka yung drop rate. Ayun, you could use those. And that's all in just a data asset. We can also use it also. You can also use it sa dialogue. Like, kung gusto niyo mga i-display na text, ayun, pwedeng gamitin yun. Si designer, they don't have to bother you. Sasabihin niya, oy, gumawa na ako ng data asset for dialogue. Oh, di ba? Madila lang yun. Usually, ang nangyari is they give us the dialogues that they want. And then tayo mismo yung mag-input. And that will affect us sa project making. Bakit? We could have been creating something. We could have been testing out, debugging our game. But in the end, we're like, we would have to input those dialogue. We have to put it in those certain places. Super hassle. It's really super hassle for us. And time is of essence, especially sa capstone or sa mga, actually any other kind of project, especially in the game dev. Time is of essence. Okay? And finally, you can also use it for a spawn table. In our case, like, see, tower defense, we could use it there in data asset. Okay. So far, any questions about all of this? Data assets, structs, data members. Yes, this is also recorded, so you can go back to this. I will upload it to Big Sky. Any questions? None? All good? I am overwhelmed in the idea. So, ang data asset, it's just something that you could create in Unreal and nasa editor mo. You could change data there instead of like accessing yung actors mismo. That's the concept of this. Now with that, we can just simply get these data assets similar to the inspector sa Unity. A bit. Data asset, it's a bit. It's a bit similar to inspector. Kinda. Ang importante lang dito sa data assets is it holds data. It doesn't really hold that much of behavior. Kung anong kailangan lang natin na data, hawak nila to. Ito, I will show it demo naman. Okay. So, how do you create a data asset or struct? Okay, let's go with struct first. So, to create a struct, all you have to do here in Unreal or for parang blueprint lang. We can just right click, we go to blueprints, and you have structure. Let us call this our spawn data. So itong spawn data, we could give it variables. Kung ano yung mga kailangan natin sa spawn. Like, we have the enemy class. We could also have like the amount to spawn. So, si enemy class, we have enemy. Ito, gawa ko to. Itong enemy na to. Amount to spawn will just be like integer. So you can see it is just variables lang. There's no functions here in the struct or structure. Okay. It will look like this. Now, to create a data asset, you go to here. No. Blueprint class. If I create the blueprint class of data asset, ayan. primary data asset. I will call this wave data. Now for wave data, in here I can input like how many would spawn or ano yung mga spawn, ano yung isa-spawn natin dito. So there are different ways to do this. But I can use dito like si spawn data. Si spawn data ang wait lang. Wave spawn list. So dito I could input like anong lalabas muna. Like let's say CBP enemy. I will release 5. Then after that I could release like flying na enemy. Let's say gumawa ko ng flying enemy. Tapos 5. Pwedeng ganun. We could also input here like float or as float na lang, which would be spawn interval. So what if gusto ko na nakadalagay ito like every 1 second may magsaspawn na enemy. Okay. Now, I've created a blueprint for the wave data. I have a struct here. Now, I could now create nag-crash. Hold on. I could now create data assets of that wave. Where am I? Here. So what if on wave 1, where's that data asset? I see choose wave data. I will call this wave 1. So wave 1, gusto ko na mag-spawn lang ako ng normal na enemy. 10 of those. That's for wave 1. For wave 2, I could now choose a different kind of spawn. So wave data, wave 2, I could choose here na there will be 5 of this for ground enemy. I have 5 enemy na flying enemy. Let's say gumawa ko ng flying enemy. Alright? And I could use this for our spawners. Right? So why is this better than just having, let's say, a spawner that holds a array of spawn data, wave data. So why is this better than this? So let's say wave 1 may 10 na enemies. Wave 2, this is the part where medyo wala na. I cannot have multiple enemies. I can just say like, sige, wave 2 would just be 10 of flying enemies. So that's one thing na we can't have. Might be too much load for that one spawner. A bit. One other thing with this is, what if you have multiple spawners, right? Gumawa tayo ng tatlong spawners. Paano kung gusto ko, si wave 1 pala, gusto ko na instead of 10, I want 8. Now, what happens? All the spawners, I have to change to 8. Because I want the first wave to just 8 lang. Paano ko yung third wave, gusto ko ng 5 na lang? Each of the spawners, I have to change to 5. So it is a downside of having it in just data member. Hassle for you. You might lose track of ano yung mga data. ano yung mga data for each of the spawners. Mali mo, naiwan ka ng isa, edi magtataka, oy, bakit may mas maraming nag-spawn dito sa itong spawner kaysa sa iba, right? So instead of spawn data, what if we use, see, wave data, or yung ginagamit natin na ito, we can simply place our wave data assets in here. Oh, if I have a 3, I have a 3 here. So all of this will have like wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. So parang ganito, mangyari is, ay, di pala na ano, nag-crash pa. Where is it still here? Ayan, okay. So ito, let's say I have 3 waves, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, wave 1, wave 2, wave 3. So in here, if I wanted to change our wave 1, now instead of 10 enemies, I want just 8. Lahat na yan. Lahat na yan. It will now just spawn 8. Lahat yan, just 8. And if I want to change another one, I could just simply change it here. I'll just change it. I'll just add maybe another one. Na VP enemy. Ngayon 5. Oh. Eh di lahat sila may ganun rin. They have additional spawn data. Okay? So that's like the beauty of using itong data assets. In Unity, I think you can compare this to like scriptable objects. So sa Unity, you could create scriptable objects. You can change those values here sa editor, and you can use those scriptable objects doon sa mga in what would you call that? Game objects sa Unity. You could change it doon sa editor. So it's a bit similar. In here lang, we can actually also put some functions into it. What if gusto mo ng like total enemies? So total enemies would like for each, and then we could like split this. We could have like a local variable total amount of integer. Hold on. Plus. Ayan, so parang ganito. Now each of my wave data now has a total amount of enemies na function. And then sa game mode, you can just fix stuff off, like get all the spawners, get all the wave data, collect all the get my point. So you can access it here. Let's say get total enemies. Sorry. There should be a return nga pala. A return of integer. And there you have it. I should have a total enemies na function. So that's one use of having functions in the data asset. Okay. Go naman. So you'll be using this data assets sa Milestone 2 nyo. What happens is, it's a bit, I think, similar to what I just did. It depends kung ano yung trip nyo. Itong kapag ganito, like a array of spawn data, if you use this idea, this means I can have multiple kinds of enemies per wave. Kung ginawa mo lang isa, okay lang. Okay lang kung isa lang. Ay. So this means you have only one type of enemy per wave. So it really depends. It doesn't really state naman in the document to have different kinds of enemies per wave. Kung ano naman. Any questions? Since you made it a limiter, would it spawn at the same time? Define. What do you mean I made a limiter? Ah. No, itong total enemies lang, it just gets the total amount of enemies. Check ko yung each spawn sa spawn list na array, and then I get the amount to spawn. Total enemies since medium 5. Okay, I'm medyo unsure ako so when you mean would it spawn at the same time, given itong total enemies. Since they're using spawn points, will they follow wave data? So it would spawn at the same time. Since they're using spawn points, will they follow wave? Yes, they will follow wave data, given they are controlled by just one entity. In this case, game mode. So game mode would have access to, would get all the spawners. Siya yung magkakontrol kung kailan niya mag-spawn. So, ito. This is one way, right? I said one way we have all an array of wave data for each. Another way is si game mode ang may hawak ng array na yun. So what does this mean? Let me just here wave data. So kung si enemy ang may kung si game mode ang hawak ng wave data assets, we can have the spawners just instead of array, it'll just be one. Now with this, sa game mode na ang mag-inject itong wave data. So let's say spawn custom spawn wave na wave number. So if I call this let's say I have all the list of spawners here. Ito yung spawners natin. So for each, I would get the set the spawn. Set data. Set the wave data base sa wave number. So now each of these spawners will share the same one, which is itong depende dito. And then I can tell them to like start spawning, like start spawn using that wave data. In this case, si game mode na ang may control kung kailan mag-spawn ang mga enemies sa spawners. Okay, so this is another way. Si game mode ang may hawak ng array of wave data assets. The other way is spawner ang may hawak ng array of wave data assets. There's just multiple ways talaga on how to go about with this. This one will be even easier kasi now you don't have to go to each of these spawners. You just have to go to the array, the game mode, and then you can just change it here. You can change kung ano dapat yung nasa wave 1 or 3. Okay? Then, I would say spawn. Start spawning. And it will start spawning. Kasi andito na yun eh. May hawak na siya ng wave data. Which is injected by our game mode. Gets ba? Does that make sense? Okay. So, the moment I give them itong si wave data, all of them will now be sharing. All of them will now be sharing that wave data. And they will now spawn base sa wave data na yun. So in this case, wave 1, na 1 second of 8, they would start to spawn. You just have to code it lang dito. How to do it. So like, spawn wave, custom, spawn wave. It'll be like a loop. Gagawa ka pa ng loop here. And then, ayun, nag-clash ulit. Where was I? So if I have like a custom here of spawn wave, given the wave data, I have access to like, may iba to split this? Di pala. Get array, get our spawn list, and then for each here, you can now like spawn actor of class using this. But then we have to make this wait somehow. So kung hindi for each loop, we could do like a timer, set timer by event. Ayan, there are really different ways to go about with this. Basta dito makakuha natin yung spawn list at saka yung get interval. Ito na yung magiging spawn interval natin, and then you do whatever action that needs to be done, and so on and so forth. Okay. Alright. Gets naman? Sige. Any other questions so far? Questions. Just need to learn how to apply it. I see. Yeah, you will go through that. You somehow use yung mga data nito and then spawn each of those. Yeah, you'll get through that. Actually, if pwede nga tayo gumawa ng ano eh, like function here, get all enemies. Like mangyari is it will output all the enemies in just one single array enemy. Oops, enemy. So in this case, we don't have to do it's a spawner. Mangyari is it will output all the enemies by going through the spawn list. Yeah, I think this will work. What I'm about to do. Hassle nga lang. I mean, it'll be more programming right now, but you get the point. So we can have wave data, gather all the enemies in just one array. Pwede yun. Really depends. Really depends on how you do yung spawn data nyo. If spawn data would just release one type of enemy per wave or multiple types of enemies per wave. Okay? Crash ulit. Gets naman? No questions? No questions, huh? Okay. So, data asset is not for saving your game state. So this only saved as an asset or resource for the project. So runtime objects with complex behavior, ayun, hindi siya dapat data asset. So if you need to do something runtime, just use yung class. And we don't use data assets to hold global runtime data. So it's not something that we really want to keep on inputting data. Parang struck. You don't really want it to keep inputting data into that data asset. What you want to use it for is just to give out those data. So tips, start with the data, then build the implementation from there. So when you create a class, think of ways how you can modify behavior with a simple change of data. Never ever hard code the value for volatile properties like damage, move, speed, etc. What does this mean? Don't hard code it sa blueprint or sa code mismo. Like nilagay natin damage is equal to 10. Tapos ginawa natin new property of edit anywhere. Ayun. That is hard-coded. So better na you expose it. Make it a data member. Think of how a designer would interact with your scripts. That is, with minimal to no programming involved. So we will try our best with Unreal to make our designers have an easy time in inputting their data, whether it be dialogue or stats or other kinds of data. We want it as easy for them as we can. So don't make the data too granulated. The less data files we need to manage, the better. Our goal is to make it easier for the designer. Okay? So not everything naman kailangan i-data assets. Just yung mga kailangan na natin. Alright? So why not just put everything in the class? Ayun nga. The behavior breaks when data doesn't. And we'll find a balance naman when you get to GAMPRG 3 because you'll be working with your ano. In GAMPRG 3, you'll be working with another classmate of yours. So for now, you just use yung struct at saka data assets as a way to handle just a way to make it a data-driven code. What is that straight face? Okay, ikaw naman. You don't never learning a balance. And that's why you have to find it. You have to find whether which one should be in public, which should be hidden. Ayun. So, any questions? None? Okay. So, if there are no questions, that's it lang naman for today. If you guys have any questions or any concerns with your project, please let me know. Again, message me here, message me personally, I don't mind. All right. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. I am free naman to answer them. There's nothing wrong with asking. I won't get angry with you. I won't start shouting at you just because you ask a question. All questions are valid. Uh, yeah, yeah, that's it. All right. So that's it for today. You uh, guys have dinner. Okay. So kung may question kayo, you can stay here. Bye bye.